So this is what if Deku was Homelander good version part 2. Now, basically I am going to be posting what if Bell was a spirit of vengeance today or tomorrow, but at least this week. And also my other what if Deku was half white dragon. I am going to be posting that next week or maybe at midnight tonight. But other than that, let's just dive right into the video. And I also am working on a stop motion. It's going to be a Spider-Man stop motion. It's basically going to be a black suit Spider-Man stop motion, and Spider-Man's going to get the black suit and maybe just beat up everybody. And the Fantastic Four and Iron Man and Miles have to stop him. So it's a pretty good stop motion I'm doing. So yeah. Now let's just dive right into the video. Enough talking. So last time I left off where Deku would have, aced the quirk assessments at UA, and also I left off on, Deku's life and how Inko would be raising him, and basically that would make the big difference in Deku's life because he would have a mother-like mentor, or his actual mother raising him again, as he would have had, a mom to give him morals and ideals and to tell him the true meaning of being an American and basically the true meaning of being a hero, to be selfless and care for others, to basically just be a hero. So Deku would have gone, back home and would have came back to UA the next day, as he would have sat down in class. As the class would have been introduced to you, All Might would have came into the class and would have told the class they were doing quirk combat training, as they would all be told to get their hero costumes on and then meet him at the training ground, as they all would have left. As they all would have most of them would have had the exact same hero costumes, as Deku would have had a different hero costume. His hero costume being similar to the movie version of Homelander's suit, but Deku's hero costume is going to just be exactly the same as in Homelander's suit in the TV show The Boys. I was going to give him the comic book suit, but the comic book suit is kind of inaccurate at points and different times, and also just looks horrible. So, yeah, so let's just go with this one. So basically, just imagine this in anime-like style. So what happened is doing this, Deku got in his hero costume, having the American flag on it, basically him really not liking it too much, it just being issued to him by Vought. As he would have looked at the cape, seeing that it wasn't really his style, so he would switch out the American flag cape, basically, pretty much taking the stars off of the cape and just having it just be plain white. Well, not was it being a plain red cape, as it would have the same American flag top to it, but it would be just a plain blue with a flat red for the whole cape area. But basically, one of the staff there, or pretty much, it would be like a staff members there a UA for Vought, as he would tell Deku to get redressed, as they already issued another one because they had some sort of, camera in Deku's locker to make sure he was wearing the Vought issued suit, because Deku was still under Vought's thumb. Don't get it twisted. So Deku put the suit back on with the original cape, him not really liking the American flag cape too much, but just going with it. As Deku was Japanese or half Japanese, but they wanted him to wear an American flag just because his father was American. But even though Deku knew that his father was a piece of, crap, and he didn't want anything to do with him, but Vought is Vought, and they want a public image for Deku. So what would happen is Deku would have multiple different capes that would be switchable. So he would have a Japanese cape. The Japanese cape is just a plain white cape with the Japan's logo or Japan's flag on it, and the other capes are just the same thing, just with different color templates or color themes. So what happened is Deku would put the American flag cape on first, and they would have started doing their pretty much training, as they would all get teamed up. Deku getting teamed up with Ochaku in this canon. As Deku and Ochaku, Bakugo, and Ida would have been teamed up, all up against each other, as Deku would have gone into the building, as he would have told Ochaku to deal with Ida while he takes down the blonde kid. as she runs off. He would have known who Ida was because of the news of the Ida family and and pretty much his obvious engines at the back of his thighs or the back of his calves. Obviously, he was in the Ida family. So Deku started to walk around as he would eventually look behind a corner, as he would have seen Bakugo come out of the corner throwing explosions towards Deku. As Bakugo would have started to barrage Deku with multiple explosions, eventually trying to take him out as quick as possible, as Deku would have looked at Bakugo saying, "Really?" As he would have pushed Bakugo through a wall, knocking him out. As Deku would have looked around, being very surprised on how in the field he was actually way overpowered, as he would just take down Bakugo very quickly. As he would have walked off, Bakugo getting back up with all the strength left in his body, as he would have pulled both of the pins on his gauntlets, hitting Deku with the explosion. As Deku would have been pushed back off his feet, him being pushed back about 17 to 16 feet away into a nearby room through the wall or through the concrete pillars. As Deku had gotten up, him grabbing one of the concrete pillar pretty much pieces of rubble and chucking it like a baseball towards Bakugo's face, hitting Bakugo upside the head, giving him a slight concussion, knocking him out clean. As Bakugo just having a nasty cut underneath his blonde hair, it bleeding badly. As Recovery Girl will be sent inside the building to tend to Bakugo. As Bakugo will be pulled out of the building as fast as possible to get some, pretty much medical attention. As Deku would have walked up the stairs, him getting tired of this and him just flying through the building's walls, eventually coming across the bomb room where Ida and Ochaku were, as Ida and Ochaku would have started to fight each other. As Deku would have tried to see this through, as Deku would have wanted to end it, basically him using his laser vision to cut a line between Ida and Ochaku, as it would have slightly, even almost hit the bomb, but it wouldn't hit it though. So basically, Ida would have been pushed back as he would have seen Deku, and Deku would have lasered one of the pillars near him for it to fall over and hit Ida, as it would have almost hit Ida, but would have caught his front foot underneath the rubble, as he would have had to pretty much try to get his feet underneath the rubble. As he got his feet out underneath the rubble, as Deku was going for the bomb, as he would have been kicked upside the forehead by Ida, as Ida's middle armor would have been able to pretty much stun Deku, as Deku would have backed up, him being very confused on how Ida was able to slightly even phase him. As in this universe, actually, some quirks can actually damage Deku, or some quirks can pretty much, let's just say bypass the compound V in Deku's cells, and some quirks are strong enough to combat with Deku, and some middles are also able to stun Deku but not injure him, like titanium or steel. Basically, those middles can stun him, but stuff like lead and other things like that, like what bullets and torpedoes are made out of, they mainly don't stun Deku at all. Mainly quirks and other things like that. But majority of quirks don't really do anything to Deku, so Deku's mainly overpowered. So Deku, because I'm just making this so Deku will be evened out, so he won't be destroying everybody. He wouldn't be, too overpowered. So basically what happened is Deku would have started to, grab Ida by the collar of his suit and chuck him through a nearby pillar, knocking him out clean, as he would have told Ochaku to touch the bomb, as they would have won, as they would have all been crowned the MVPs. As Deku would have walked off, as Deku would have walked home. As Deku would have walked home, eventually halfway through, just flying home and basically landing in the back of his pretty much backyard in the fake city, as he would know it was a fake city because he flies there every day, or flies back and forth to school every day. And then basically he would look around and would ask for he would tell his mom he was home, and his mom would tell Deku pretty much get ready to go to sleep, and basically giving him some dinner. As Deku would have gone to sleep that night, him just contemplating about the morals of good and bad, as Deku's main conflict in this story, he will be figuring out the conflicts between what is morally good and what is morally bad, as he would find his true self later on in the story. I'm trying to figure out if he's a good person or a bad person. Now, basically, we get switched to not the end of this what if, because I can't make this what if so short because it's only 12 minutes long, and I can't leave you guys off with such a little bit. And I hate when what ifers do that. They're giving you so much hype for this what if, and they only giving you 12 minutes of what if time. So yeah, so let's get switched to the next day. As Deku would have woken up the next day, going to school, and basically the class would have been told about the sports festival, and basically pretty much stuff like that. Now they would have been told about this prior, but they would still be told to get ready and get in their hero costumes as they would go to the USJ. So part 3 will be a sports festival, but now will be the USJ. As they would have told everybody about the USJ, and basically them being called to the bus stop, getting called to the bus area to get ready to be driven to the USJ. As they would have dropped off in the USJ, but on their way there, they would still talk about their powers, and they would say that Deku is the strongest person in the class. As pretty much they would have looked at Deku, and Ochaku would have asked Deku what was his quirk. As Deku would have never had to make up a quirk name, as he would just say his quirk name was Homelander. As he would just make up that name on the fly for some reason, if feeling right to him. As he would have told Ochaku that, her saying it's a pretty interesting quirk name, as she would have said, what were your powers? Or what's your quirk? As Deku would have said he has multiple quirks. As Todoroki would be interested, as he would listen in or pretty much eavesdrop into the conversation. As pretty much Kirishima would say, you have multiple quirks, dude? Like Todoroki? Him saying yes. Now basically he would start to list down his powers, them saying you have a lot of different quirks, and that's really powerful. Basically Deku saying, yeah, thank you. Kirishima was it? As Kirishima would have said, yeah, I got my name right, didn't you? You got me, oh my gosh. You got my name right, didn't you? I'm sorry, guys. I'm just reading my script so bad. So basically, what happened is Deku and the rest of the students would have gone off the bus when they arrived at the USJ. So would have gone into the USJ as they would have been introduced to the number blah 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 of basically 13 hero. As 13 would have told them a whole speech about how quirks are dangerous and stuff like that, blah blah blah. As Deku would have just been listening to this, as he would have heard something, a shift in the air with his super hearing. As he would have looked around, and out of nowhere, some sort of black shadow type, a shuriken went by Deku, hitting Ochaku's leg as she would have fell down to the ground. As everybody else around, pretty much them, would have seen this, and the heroes, or pretty much the villains, would have shown up. As Ochaku would have gone back up, the knife just glazing her thigh, as it wouldn't really stab her much at all. It just being kind of like a paper cut. So basically what would happen is everybody would start to book it, as 13 would have been told by Aizawa to get the students out of there. As 13 would have tried to take down the villains, as he would have started to body them left and right, but eventually something else would come through the portal. Something big, something monstrous. As pretty much Kirigiri would have been able to take Kirigiri would have been able to take down most of the pretty much members of the he would be able to take down 13 and pretty much wipe her clean, basically just pretty much bodying her and teleporting the rest of the students around the pretty much USJ to split them up, to make sure they're not as powerful together. As Deku would have been split up, as he would have been landed right where the pretty much the water area is the same as the original. As Deku would have stopped and would have started to float down, as he would have flown towards pretty much Mineta and Froppy, as he would have looked around, as he would have flown or landed right there, grabbing Froppy and Mineta and flying them off and landing them in safety, since Deku would be able to fly in this canon. As Deku would have looked around, as Daku would have lasered the water, as he would have started to boil the water's temperature, making the villains in the water jump out like it was boiling water. As they would have jumped out, Deku being able to actually pit a type of stunner version on his laser vision, so he could basically mimic like a kinetic force of energy or something, like kind of like a zap. So he could basically just lasers all of the villains and makes them pass out. As he's able to pretty much heat up his laser vision to a point where it's kind of like I guess like a heat gun, but on super levels. So basically enough to basically boil your body liquids to make you to basically make you pass out. So like he's like they basically Deku can lower down his laser vision on his eyes, like heat up objects, but also basically kind of mimic a type of stun version on his laser vision, being able to basically make people or make pretty much to make changes in Deku's fighting techniques, not having to always try to use his laser vision to kill people. But it would take a lot more focus for Deku to lower down the heat on his laser vision, so it would be more easier for him to just kill people by lasering through them or just burning them alive, still like that. But basically, Deku would take down the villains by using the type of stun version of his laser vision, taking them down all, but they would have third-degree burns on their bodies, so yeah. So they would have to get medical attention for that, though. So Deku would walk off and fly off into the USJ looking around, as he would have landed where Momo and the rest of the students were at, as he would have helped other students around the USJ. As they would have started to pretty much fight against multiple different, pretty much villains, as they would eventually, or all pretty much the class would have eventually came across the Nomu and would start to fight against the Nomu. As Deku would use his laser vision to keep the Nomu at bay, basically hitting it down. Eventually, as he was doing this, All Might would have shown up, and the whole class would have been gawking at this, them feeling hope and not having to fight anymore. As All Might would have shown up, and he would have started to go beast mode. As he would have told Deku to stop, as the Nomu would have started to get barraged by punches and left hooks left and right out of nowhere by pretty much by All Might. As the All Might would have started to, pretty much pummel the Nomu. Eventually 13 would have seen this as well, since she would be bodied, like folded, like dropped, as she would have been in very bad shape. As Mineta and everybody else would be freaking gawking at this. Now Deku would have seen this and basically would have not really been super, pretty much like in canon, not really super, let's just say, surprised, because he was supposed to succeed All Might, and his strength levels, his speed, and his powers kind of already speak for himself. As All Might would have looked at Aizawa's body, seeing that Aizawa was, in very bad shape, as he would have grabbed all the other students that were in danger out of the way and basically would have started to help out everybody. As he would start to take down the Nomu more and more, going back and forth, switching back and forth between saving the kids and fighting the Nomu, eventually the Nomu catching most of All Might's attention, and All Might punching barrages of punches and trying to overwhelm the Nomu. As the Nomu would have started to overpower All Might of all people, as he would have started to get pummeled down, and eventually Deku having to jump in. As Deku jumps in, basically him using his laser vision to cut off the Nomu's arm and legs, as he would have felt some sort of release, as he would have started to obliterate the Nomu, as All Might would have jumped out the way, seeing that Deku's laser vision was very well, let's just say, dangerous. Pretty much him killing the Nomu and melting it down, basically melting the Nomu's body and liquefying the Nomu's flesh, bone, and skin. As the Nomu would be yelling out as it would try to punch Deku as it was being melted away, but Deku just burning the Nomu down in a fiery, melty mush of guts and liquefied bits, as the Nomu would be taken down. As All Might and the rest of the students would have seen this, pretty much display of power that Deku had, as he would take down the Nomu, or the villain, that All Might was fighting like for a solid 15 minutes, that All Might wasn't even paying a dent in. So Deku defeated the Nomu, as pretty much, they would have all been taken off of, school grounds for a couple weeks to figure out the whole problem or why the League of Villains attacked, and basically to fix up the USJ and also put UA under some sort of surveillance to see how they were able to find out how the class was going to be there at that exact same time. Now, what happened is Deku would have gone back home, as he would have been sitting on top of his roof, him just trying to think what was going on, as he would have honed on with his super hearing, him being able to basically, it depends on which part Deku is, but Deku's super hearing Deku's super hearing is strong enough for him to literally hear every person's voice, sound, or heartbeat in pretty much a continent level event. Basically, Deku can hear anybody's voice or heartbeat in, let's just say Deku's in the middle of America. He can hear everybody's voices and all their car engines and everything, like birds chirping, everything from pretty much like 50 to 60 miles up into the air if he's standing on the ground, and pretty much all the way to like the end of the a border of America, or basically all the way to the end of America. He can hear everything. Basically, let's say, yeah. So basically, Deku can hear about a continent worth of pretty much some voices and noises. Deku's hearing is very potent, as he would have been using his hearing to basically see what Vought was up to, as Vought would have been trying to figure out what was going on with pretty much, the what was it? Pretty much the League of Villains. As Deku would have also heard something about some sort of pro hero named Hawks, aka one of the members of the Seven, alongside one of the members of the Seven being Black Noir, as he would have been thought of to be introduced in the team. As Black Noir would have been also a teenage candidate for Deku, as he would eventually the next day, a couple weeks after, pretty much the test would have passed by, as Deku would have gone back to school about a day before they would have gone back to school, as Deku would have gone out in public to basically get some food and take out, as he would have been sitting in the outside area of a nearby Starbucks near his, pretty much town or neighborhood, as they would have just been sitting there, as he would eventually see Ochaku in public, as he would have looked at Ochaku and would have tried to talk to her, as he would have noticed that Ochaku lived in this neighborhood, not lived in this neighborhood, but lived near this area, as she would start to talk and make small talk with Deku, as they eventually start to flirt with a little bit, and Deku would eventually be given Ochaku's number. Ochaku saying bye to Deku and walking off, as Deku would be really, surprised by this. Now, Deku would put, pretty much her number in the back of his pocket, as he would be in street clothes, not in his hero costume, but he would sit down and basically finish his drink, as he would go back home, going into an alleyway and flying back home, as he would not want to get seen by people. So Deku would go back home, look at the phone number, and basically put it in his drawer, waiting to call it for next time, or waiting to call it another time. As Deku would use his super hearing again to try to figure out, Black Noir and how Hawks was fitting in this whole thing. And basically, it's simple. The Seven, or Vought, is looking to pretty much introduce Black Noir into Class 1A. As the next day, as Deku goes back to Class 1A, as he walks into Class 1A, seeing a new face, and basically Azawa explaining that pretty much it's been a new student, Black Noir, or pretty much Jerry. And basically his name would be Jerry, because I'm just going to say Jerry, but I'm just going to narrate him, or pretty much say that he's Black Noir, or I'm going to narrate him or address him as Black Noir. As in this universe, Black Noir is going to be a classic character. He ain't going to be a modified version of any My Hero Academia characters. He's just going to be this universe's version of Black Noir, and he's going to be kind of a semi-rival to Deku, but not too much. So basically, Black Noir will be a new member of pretty much, the class, as in this canon, pretty much when Netta, hold up. Okay, so basically, I was reading the wrong script. This is for, the bad version of this What If I was gonna make, in next month. Basically, Black Noir is not going to be in this what if, well, not at least, not now at least, but he will be introduced later on, maybe in part 10. And basically, yeah, so Black Noir is going to be introduced later on in the story. Now for Hawks, Hawks is being, interviewed to be a part of the Seven. So yeah, so that's been cleared up. So I'm gonna be out here, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and as always, guys, have a blessed day.